Hey y'all, welcome to our weekly video report. I'm Peyton and I'm joined by Corey and Yaila. And we have such a fun topic for you today. Today we are talking about self-care. And this is something that we really all need in our lives right now. This is something that really has gone from being a luxury to being just a necessity. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about what self-care is, what it means to us, and sharing some of the things that we do to practice self-care in our lives. So Corey, what does self-care look like to you?
Thank you, Peyton. Self-care. Oof. Well, when I think the first thing that pops into my head when I think of self-care is it's like the mechanic's car that's falling apart. The house cleaner's house that's filthy. You know, um, um, the makeup artist who never gets her makeup done on Halloween. That's what pops into my head. Why does that pop into my head? Well, because self-care has always, at least for me, I'm always the last one on the list. And, as even a mother, you're always the last one on the list. And I was, brought up as a caretaker. So as a caretaker, always last on the list. So self-care for me, even though I always came last, I was thinking that, you know, working in the film industry, I always say 20 trillion hours, a week. I used to, self-care was about making helping my body to, have the endurance to do the 16 hours a day because I needed to have my body function at its maximum, capacity. And then as time has gone on, boy, has self-care changed. I mean, yes, sometimes I let it go a little too far, so to speak, but it has changed. How has it changed? Um, you know, uh, learning how to do energy work was a big, huge commitment in self-care for me years ago, where I said, I need to learn how to do me. How I needed a commitment to myself. And that was one of the commitments I made for a year of taking care of me by learning energy tools because I was going around I was going outside, going around the world, just feeling absolutely everything. And it was wreaking havoc in my life, a form of PTSD, anxiety, then depression. And so that was making a commitment to yourself in any form, whether it's exercise or, learning energy tools or, whatever it is a form of self-care. And I found that when I have made a commitment to myself, that it really helps to be consistent in self-care. So once learning the energy tools, we were actually the ladies and I were talking about this, earlier, is about, practicing it and being able to meditate. That's a wonderful self-care regimen. It's like any really form of regimen. So energy protection for me is a form of self-care, protecting my energy from anybody else's, taking out anybody else's energy from my space. Always, it's like taking a bath, right? Or taking a shower. It helps to cleanse my energy field. I knew nothing about this growing up for most of my life. It reminds me too of a spiritual counselor that I had so many years ago, who I just adore. And to this day, things that she said to me still resonate in my head. And one of the things that she said to me was, Corey, you better learn how to take care of yourself because nobody else is going to do it. I was like, what? And that meaning has, that phrase has changed for me over the years. And so I loved it, Peyton, when you said that self-care is no longer an option, it's a necessity. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. So some of the self-care is loving yourself enough, at least for me, loving myself enough to learn energy work, to take care of myself so I can go out in the world and not feel everything as an empath, not feel everything. Running, doing the meditations every day, that's a form of self-care. If I'm tired, rest. Making time for, because I didn't know what rest was. I had no idea, working 16-hour days, 20 trillion hours a week. Rest, I got like 3 and 4 hours of sleep a night for a lot of years. So getting enough rest. If I need a nap, if the energies are really strong, or if I need a nap, or I've been working with a lot of clients, students, and I'm tired, I take a nap. Who would have thought? That's a form of self-care. Also, another form of self-care is upping my discernment as to what frequencies and or vibrations, we were talking about this earlier, but what frequencies and vibrations resonate with me or don't resonate with me. Doesn't mean it's good or bad, but if my job used to be very intense, a lot of stress, and caring for myself says, you know what, I don't want to do that anymore. 20 trillion hours a week. Do I love the art in which I was working? Absolutely. But I have found a way to care for myself and not run myself into the ground and still be able to do the things that I love. So this is a really big topic, I feel, and a very broad topic because there's many forms of self-care. And I didn't really realize it until actually I got into energy work, but I had more of an awareness of it. So some days I have to reschedule my clients because I don't have the energy to give them, as opposed to forcing myself and my body to show up and pushing through everything. That's a big form of self-care. And that's one of the first things that I teach my clients. I ask them, how is your self-care? And a lot of my clients, they don't even really know what it is. Along with that comes self-love, loving yourself enough to care for yourself, to do loving and caring things for yourself. Sometimes that means stepping away from the busy, busy, busy outside world and saying no. Saying no to, going to a party, or no, to an event, if you feel you need the rest for self-care. So I could go on for a long time on self-care. So I'm gonna pass it on, Yaila.
Thank you, Corey. I agree with so much of what you're sharing as far as self-care and learning how to put yourself first. When I think of self-care, I kind of think of it as like the macro and the micro ways to care for yourself and kind of what you need. So when I think of the macro, kind of the big picture items, for me, it's, what are you putting in your body? What am I putting in my body? How am I moving my body? Am I getting enough sleep? It's just like the basic necessities. And everybody's, necessities can vary. For us here, meditation is probably a necessity now, where before my previous lifetime, before the energy tools, I may not have had that on my list. But doing those things that I know make me at least start with a good foundation as far as my physical and mental well-being. And that's just kind of those, in my mind, those macro things. And make that list for yourself. What are those like non-negotiables that you need for yourself to function at your optimal levels, just on that physical showing up in this world level?
The micro for me.
I think this is kind of where my self-care is also shifting in, is really about those little thoughts and the stories I have about myself and the world around me. And old ways of showing up, old ways of interpreting how I'm showing up, or what I'm allowing in my space and not allowing in my space. So self-care for me also looks like, what are the types of situations I am putting myself in? What are the types of relationships I'm allowing to have and not have? Where am I spending my energy? What is the story I'm telling about myself, in those moments and in hindsight of those moments? For me, this is a lot about self-care. And you're learning and growing each moment by moment, different situations. And to uphold self-care for yourself is really honoring what's in alignment. If I could bring it down to one word that I think really encompasses self-care for me, it's alignment. Am I acting in alignment for my mind, body, soul, spirit, heart, whatever my connection to something, a greater power out there? Am I in alignment to those things? And am I doing it as much as I possibly can, as I consciously can? Because things show up, even to this day, knowing the energy tools and doing the energy tools and working with people, there's still some of those old subconscious beliefs that pop up. I'm like, wow, that's a whole new level that I didn't realize I had that story about myself. And so my self-care practice these days is not just about those physical actions I'm taking, but it's really those internal stories and beliefs and how I'm caring for myself on that mental, emotional, and even future self that I'm stepping into, present and future self that I'm stepping into. Um, that self-care for me, I feel like, I'm, yes,
Calling it micro.
but I really feel like that goes into more of the macro. It's, to me, it's those little things that are huge, because when you're catching those little tiny stories and those little tiny beliefs that you have about yourself, those are, Corey was talking about frequencies. Those are the frequencies that you are operating within yourself. And so if you have this belief that you're not good enough at something, or you're always going to finish last, or it's meant for other people but it's not meant for you, or whatever the story is that you catch yourself in, and whatever the outside situations that are making you believe that, a form of self-care is learning how to change that story. It's learning how to show up in a different way, in a different alignment, so you can align to those things that you really want to believe about yourself. Because I truly believe, we're not here to live a life of misery. We're not here to be punished. We're not here to be divisive towards other people. We're here to really enjoy the journey and thrive and grow and expand. And we're supposed to have fun too. So for me, self-care is really looking at those places. Am I in alignment? And am I going in those directions that aren't just going to feel good in the moment, but are they going to feel good the next day, a week from now, a month from now? Am I going in a direction that I ultimately want to be going in? So when I think of self-care, that's kind of where my thoughts are at the moment. How about you, Peyton?
Yeah, I love what you guys said. I really resonate with the way you guys explain it and your experiences, because self-care is one of those things that did not come naturally to me. As some of y'all know, I was a lawyer before I started doing spiritual work. And so for a long time, I had a very stressful law practice. and I worked all the time. I was traveling all the time and in very conflict-filled situations because no one is happy when the lawyers get involved. So I had a kind of very stressful daily life. And what was valued in that part of my life was the more you produced, the more you could do. So taking care of yourself, whether that was your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, was just not what was on the radar. It was not valued in my old world. And what I started to notice is I was starting to feel terrible in my body after years of doing this. And I started to senior attorneys that I was around and working with were starting to have really serious health issues. And so it started to dawn on me that maybe this go, 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 never take a break, be stressed out all the time that our society rewards and, really holds up as our goal, maybe was not a sustainable long-term plan. So my body was what actually started driving me to needing to practice and find some form of self-care because I just noticed I was feeling terrible all the time. And so my body was giving me feedback that the current situation was not working and something had to change. And my body kept getting louder and louder until I realized I had to do something. So that is kind of what put this whole concept of self-care, which, trust me, was not part of anything I was raised with. This was not part of something that my family valued. We were very, it was all about productivity. And so self-care would have fallen into the frivolous category, but you can only take that so far. And so it was my body that actually drove me to needing to slow down, needing to take better care of myself, because I had a very strong intuitive sense, even before I did any intuitive work, that my body was going to start to break down if I kept going and going and going. So that was kind of what drove me to start to develop a self-care practice for myself, is that I had to, because I just kept feeling terrible. So that kind of thing can drive you. It can cause change in your life when you start to see that the way you're living is maybe not sustainable long-term. So when I think of the concept of self-care, for me, it's all about what helps you feel good in your body, what nurtures your body, because our bodies really take a hit when we are not giving them what they need. And so self-care is going to look different for everyone. And what nurtures one person and supports their body might not be of value to someone else. So for me, self-care is something that is very personal to each person. But something else that I'm noticing that kind of puts self-care on the radar these days, and this is more for those of us in the spiritual community, is that over the past year or so, the environmental and planetary energies have been getting stronger and stronger. We are getting constant solar energy that we've never been exposed to before. The Schumann resonance is spiking all the time. And so our bodies are being bombarded with planetary energies that they've never had to process before. And that's very, very challenging on our physical bodies. And that's why we talk in the spiritual community so much about ascension symptoms and ways that this can affect our physical body. And the Pleiadians say these energies are only going to get stronger. So learning how to care for our bodies, take care of them, is more important now than it has probably ever been, because our bodies need the support. We're doing so much spiritual work, so much growth work as the awakened community, and our bodies need just as much care and attention. And so that's going to look different for everyone. And so some of the things that are kind of my go-tos for self-care are, like the ladies mentioned, meditation. For me, that is a daily essential. And I really feel that if I venture too far off the path, let my meditation practice slip for a couple of days, I start to get feedback from my body that the energies are getting out of alignment. So that is one of those that is a non-negotiable for me these days. Something else, and Corey mentioned this, is sleep. Sleep is so important to help our bodies process these energies that are hitting the planet right now. And whether that is a nap in the middle of the day or whether that is getting good sleep at night, that can go a long way to helping your body deal with some of these planetary energies that we're dealing with right now and that are going to be the new norm, really, according to the guides. But some other things that can be really helpful that the Pleiadians always recommend to me is they're always telling me it helps our physical bodies to drink more water. That they say that this helps us move through some of these solar energies that are getting more and more intense. So hydration, especially if you're someone who doesn't drink a ton of water, can really help you move through some of those energies that are making so many people just not feel good in their body right now. So again, sleeping can help, water can help. For me, and I think Yaila touched on this, eating higher vibrational foods. So for me, cutting out anything that might be more toward the junk end of the scale, getting higher quality nutrients, higher vibrational foods can help us process these energies, which again, it's going to take some of the stress off of our physical bodies because our physical bodies are reeling, trying to deal with the planetary energies that are hitting us right now. And so taking care of your body through whatever self-care resonates with you, it's getting more important day by day. And something else that I see, and this works with a lot of my clients, I hear them talking about, is salt baths can be very, very helpful to help you clean out your aura, your energetic field, and especially to move out some of that energy that might not belong to you. So those are some of the things that are my go-tos. Anything else coming up for you ladies?
Yeah, and I was just trying to find the quote, but there's it's either like in the shamanic communities or Native American cultures, it's like when somebody went to the medicine person complaining of things going on in their life, whether they're depressed or whatever was going on, they had some questions for the person, like, when did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? And I feel like there's like 3 questions in that. And I think about that for those times when I do find myself in kind of those lower moments where I'm like, when did I stop doing the things that made me feel good? We think of these self-care things of like, it's like the to-do list, right? But sometimes we fall off track. We get busy, we get tied up with other things, and we kind of forget the joyful things that we do that are just fun, that lighten our mood, that raise our vibration, that tap us into those joy, fun frequencies. And I just love that question, like, when did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When I think of little kids, they're like humming, they're singing, they're dancing, they're prancing around, and they're just in that natural state of joy. And then as we get older, we kind of forget to tap into those fun enjoyment places. So for me, I would add that in as a self-care, doing those things that just really bring you joy, even if it's not about a certain outcome other than just feeling good.
Absolutely. Joy's a big one. We forget to have fun as adults.
Yeah.
Like, think about what's the last time you actually did that? I'm like, okay, I was dancing in my kitchen yesterday. So I guess I found a little bit lately, but not something I do on a daily basis. So that's a great point, Yaila.
Yeah, makes me think of like when I'm around little kids or dogs, I try to make a point to play with them because they're just so naturally in that state that you can't help but match that vibration with them. So it's a fun, easy way to get out
Yeah.
of your own space.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I love kids because, you play. I love playing with kids because it puts you in that play mode. I mean, that's why when I had my daughter, I was like, I didn't mind playing with her. It was like, oh my gosh, this is my opportunity to play, and, simplify life. Sometimes life gets really complicated. So sometimes simplifying. And I love, what you said, Yaila, about, what are the things that what are the things I used to love to do? Have I been not doing them? Yeah. And I love, Peyton, how when you talked about, yeah, the frequencies. You know, our bodies are having to process a lot of light and, you know, what we eat, you know, rest. You know, listening to yourself and your body, that's a big form of self-care because I certainly was not raised to listen to my body or, you know, certainly not listen to my body. I was just most of my life is just push, push, push. What do I need to get done? And the body was just something that took me there, but I didn't really even have as much awareness of my body. So I mean, I worked out, but there was a reason to work out, to get my body to work at its optimum so I could work harder and longer and more and push through things. So,
Yeah, I was raised the same way. And
yeah.
that you can only go so far with that. It's kind of like driving your car with the emergency brake on. Can you do it? Yes. Is it a good idea? Probably not. But you know, that's not how what our mainstream culture rewards, you know. So it's a little bit of an ideology shift to put yourself on the priority scale. So, well, ladies, that was so helpful. I always love hearing your unique perspectives. I always learn so much every time we do these videos. And we are so grateful for all of you who are watching our videos. We love you. We appreciate you. And please like, share, subscribe, and follow. And if you can think of anyone else who could benefit from them, please share them. It helps us spread what we know to more people, to just be of service and help anyone who might need a little extra help these days. So we appreciate you guys, and we will see you next week. Bye.